Hey guys, Dean Holtz here. Just want to do a little review of some speakers that I've been looking at for my keyboard. I've got this little band. We only play a few times a year, but I lead sing and play keys. We've got drums and bass and lead guitar and some vocals and whatnot, some friends and family that play in the band. But the one thing that I've been finding, and I'm actually the one that has the sound system, is that in order for me to have the keyboard such that I like to hear it, the monitors have to be pretty loud, like the keyboard sound in the monitors for the other players, and that's not fair to them. And so I thought, well, I should just grab, a pair of speakers for my own personal monitors. I haven't bothered investing in a digital board with or in-ear monitors yet. That may come down the road, but so I'm going to tell you about the speakers that I've been looking at, and there's another set that I might look at, but I'm going to tell you about the two that I've been looking at right now, and we can go from there. So let's turn the camera around and take a look. So this is my music space here, and these are the two speakers that I'm looking at. Now I'm going to show from behind to start because I'm going to show the features. This guy here, which when I'm sitting at the keyboard is on the left side. This is the Bose S1 Pro Plus, came out a couple of years ago, getting great reviews. A lot of people love it. And this is the Yorkville EXM 8 Mobile. It came out about 3-ish years ago, maybe 4, and it's also pretty popular. And let's take a look at the features. They're both battery powered. The Bose here has 3 inputs. The only thing is that this third input here just has 1/4 inch. It doesn't have the XLR as well. It does have the digital display, and so you've got volume, and then if you click the button, you've got treble, and you've got bass, and you've got reverb for the first 2 channels. That one does not have reverb. The only thing I don't like about the button thing is when you go to adjust the volume, if you accidentally press it in, now you've switched to what you're changing, and you may not realize that all of a sudden you're switching the treble level and not the volume when that's what you want to do. This also only has the individual levels out. It doesn't have a master, but it does have an XLR output, and it does have Bluetooth. It does have the feature, I think back over here, yeah, there's these spots here where you can get the Bose proprietary wireless systems, and then it can actually charge off the battery from the speaker here. But my understanding is the price of them is about the same as other aftermarket products that probably work as well or better. But anyways, that's the Bose, and this is the Yorkville. Now the Yorkville actually has a few more features. It doesn't have digital display for the volume in that, but the thing I like about it is all 3 channels actually have full 1/4 inch and XLR input option. You have volume, you have shape, which is, basically your treble and bass in one, and then you have reverb. And then here, which is really cool, you have this button that has a light up for guitar or mic. And if you're in the guitar mode, you've got a notch filter here. Super, super handy. Very much thinking of somebody who would be using this with a guitar and vocals. And it also has an actual battery life indicator here, which is really helpful. This is Bluetooth as well. Both have apps available to them. And this has 2 types of XLR outputs. And this has a master volume, which is really handy. So, and pardon the mess with all the cables. I don't normally have all that down there, but just doing this test. So what I did was I wanted to set up my little mixer here, and I've got the speakers running through the mixer, okay? It's coming out of the keyboard in mono, left mono, and then it's going out of the back here to the speakers so that each side is getting the exact same input, which is important because when I originally did this test at Long and McQuaid, formerly known as Pickers Alley here in Sarnia, Ontario, and I brought actually the S1 Pro, the Bose, from Best Buy. I picked it up from there, and I brought it to Long McQuaid and had it in the store for probably 45 minutes doing tests. And they were gracious. The staff there, like Tony and Paul, they hooked it up for me, but they didn't have time. They had other people to wait on, which I totally understand. So they just hooked up. It was actually the Bose was on this side. So the Bose was getting the right channel and the Yorkville was getting the left channel. Well, those channels aren't sending the same signal if you're actually doing true stereo. And what I've noticed in my tests is that when you're playing the right hand in actual stereo mode with 2 speakers, you're going to get more highs from this side, as you should, because it wants to give that presence and that directionality so that if you do a glissando, it actually sounds like there's movement from right to left. And conversely, you have more low end in this side. So in order to do the test correctly, if you're going to compare just the two speakers, you really do need to go mono out and then use something like a mixer like this so that you're getting the exact same signal. So that's what I've done. And I've been playing this for hours. I've been going through, I actually pastor church and lead worship there. And so I was going through our worship music. And then this band that I have, I was going through the music that we do. We have about 23 songs in our repertoire currently. And just going through all the different sounds. And I'm going to boil this down real quickly. Even though this guy gets really good reviews, and I would say if you type in YouTube, Bose S1 Pro Plus versus Yorkville EXM Mobile 8, you're going to find more people saying they like this better. They like the sound of it better. In fact, there's specifically a video of a guy in a small room. He has them set up as the mains, and he says he's a Toronto boy, so he was comparing directly these two speakers. And when I looked at his setup, it looks like guitar and vocals. Maybe he's got backing tracks, but I didn't see any keyboard or anything. And that's what he had. And he said hands down the sound of this was better to his ears. Well, as we all know, sound is subjective. And I would disagree with that. My ears like this better. And let me tell you why. The S1 Pro Plus, it does have a nice sound, but it's not even. In terms of specs, this is supposed to reach 62 hertz to 17 kilohertz, and the Yorkville 60 to 20, so it has slightly more range. The Bose is supposed to have, I think, a max SPL of 109 dB, and this is, I want to say, 121. It is definitely louder. There's no two ways about it. I forget the numbers on the dispersion. They are definitely different. I think the dispersion on the Yorkville is a little more square, whereas the Bose is not as square. What my ears hear is that in this configuration, which is probably not what they're intended for, but it's what I'm going to be using them for, this just sounds like bold in my face, whereas this has got a more spacious look. Or sound, I should say, more importantly. Now, I will say in this position, in the side wedge position, the angle is about the same. Whereas if you're in the vertical wedge position, the Bose angles up a little more. So if you're using that as a monitor to you and you're standing in front of it, the angle of it arguably might be a little better. I mean, this does angle up, but that one might be a little better. But when it comes to the sound, there's at least one hotspot with this, and basically I'm going to boil it down now. The low end of the Bose is good, and the high end is good, especially the really, really high end, but it's almost too good. It's not natural. It's not flat sounding, and I want something a little more flat because I want it to reproduce what the keyboard is putting out, and then in terms of the house, well, that's what your sound guy is going to do, is EQ it appropriately from there. I find this speaker colors the sound too much. Now, it may be to your liking, it's not to mine. And when I first heard it, I thought, oh, this sounds great. But the highs and certain mids are accentuated too much. Now, I'll give you an example. I sung into, this mic right here. I'm singing, and I was basically just going down the octave. So it was somewheres around from this G to this G, somewhere in that range. And when I got to this note right here, this is D 1 octave below middle C, okay? When I got to this note specifically, that Bose was hyperactive on that note, whereas the Yorkville was completely even. But here, let me show you something. So one of the songs we do is Sweet Caroline, and it's great classic song, and you've got the horns. So when I'm playing the horns in here, let me just do this for a sec, and I'm just going to play the horns. I'm going to add the octaves. I know the bass player doesn't like it when keyboards play octaves, but I do. Anyways, so I'm going to play a B major with the octaves. Now I'm just holding that. going to go here. This is the Yorkville doing that. I haven't changed it. I'm still holding the same chord. I don't know if you can hear the difference. There is a note that is actually coming out here that you're barely hearing, if at all, there. And I can tell you what note it is. It's that note right there. That note, that D sharp, this speaker is bringing out in concert, pun intended, in full fashion with the rest of the notes. You can hardly hear it in here. To me, that's a massive flaw. Now, again, if you're a solo vocalist or even having someone sing with you and you're playing acoustic guitar, electric guitar, this is probably fine. But when you're putting a keyboard through it, which has the greatest range of sound of anything, any traditional instrument, you're going to notice those kind of differences. And to me, once I heard that, I'm like, wow, that's just not even comparable. So, at the end of the day, you have to choose the right gear for your application. And I'm going to be bringing the Everse 8 in. I have a pair of Everse 12s, but they're way too big to have in here, and they're way overkill for personal monitors, for keyboard. But I am very impressed with these. And I will say, honestly, I've had Yorkville gear before, and I think it's good entry-level gear. I don't think, at least in the past, to me, it didn't even compare to EV when it came to PA speakers. Maybe they've improved. I don't know. Now, some of their amps, like their Trainer bass amps, are good. I still prefer the sound of the Ampeg. But I think all around, Yorkville and their subsidiary companies make a good product, and they're a good value. And I'm proud to say that's a good Canadian company. But at the end of the day, you have to determine what your values are and what's most important to you. What's most important to me is the quality of the sound. I like the features. I like the fact that if I did want to use this speaker for other applications, I don't do busing. But if for some reason I decided I did and I didn't want to lug around the Everse 12, this is a great option. To me, it's so versatile. It has everything you need. It's got more than this that to me is actually usable from a musician's point of view. I'm very impressed with this. Not to say there isn't a place for this. I think this is great for vocals and maybe vocals and guitar. And if you just want the lightest thing. The other thing is I found this battery lasts longer. So I used both of these for that gig last Saturday. Our band played. They're on. Same volume output and say about 2 hours of use. And then I've put in another probably hour and a half of use in doing tests. And all of a sudden the Bose died. I had to charge it up last night. This is still going. This is showing half power. So I know the Bose will say up to 11 hours, but at what? Quarter volume? I don't know how you get 11 hours out of it. All I know is this guy here, you can get some serious time out of the battery. The other thing, it does have a standby mode. You may have noticed there. If you haven't used it for a few minutes, it goes in standby mode, obviously to save a bit of power. And then when you play, it comes back. Now, I haven't looked in the manual, looked online to see if that's something you can disable or not. But it wasn't an issue for me when I was playing the gig last weekend. So again, you've got the Yorkville EXM Mobile 8 and the Bose S1 Pro Plus. They both have their place. They both have their pros and cons. For me, for a keyboardist as monitors, I think this guy is better. If I were to just pick a single speaker for busking, I still would take this. I don't offhand know for me why I would take this over that, but maybe for someone else. Hope this is helpful. This is Dean Holtz. Have a great day.